We are the keepers of our future and our past, and the names of our heroes past and gone, on whose courage, strength, and wisdom the North Shield stands. Teach their stories to your children, to our children, till their names are written in our blood and bone.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Griffin Tales. This is a series where we hear the stories about the people of Northshield. I'm your host, Queen Elis, and tonight we have some special guests with us. Do you want to introduce yourself?
This is Her Excellency Aethelflaed, the inspiration of me and myself and my children.
And my husband, Count Sir Toyaoka Katsuo, and we are here in Svati Sebesta in Vermilion, South Dakota.
Yeah, right down the street from me.
Yep.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know it's great to have you with us.
Yeah.
So we'll start out with the way we start everything is, how did you start in the SCA?
You want to go first?
Oddly enough, I was a courtesy boy, and I happened to run into Master Julio's former wife, and I'm like, hey, cool swords. Granted, I was like 14, 15 at the time, so I couldn't technically start. But my brother, Sir Ajax, had kind of heard about it, and he was telling me about it, and eventually we were out randomly paintballing, and we ran into Julio and Braun at the time. And so after we finally found the SCA, like when we were like 19, we ended up starting up there in our wonderful little group of Colden Hill right there in Mission, South Dakota. And that's how we got started, roughly about, I would say 2004, 2005, and kind of been going ever since.
Okay. So I've been in longer than you then.
Mm-hmm.
I started in 2003 when I went to University of South Dakota in Vermilion for college. And that fall, I had actually seen the SCA on a list of student organizations. And I think I had sent them an email saying that I was interested, but nobody ever got back to me and forgot about it because I got busy with stuff. So then the church I went to at the time would always get tickets to the Ren Fair in Shakopee. And so I heard about that through my church, and so it got in with that, and we went up there, went to the Ren Fair, and I met one of the other girls who went on the trip, who was in the SCA, and we were talking about equestrian sports and whatnot, and I had horses growing up, so I was really excited about that. So I actually got into the SCA because of my interest in equestrian, but have almost never done anything equestrian in the SCA, but met some fun people and loved everything that we did those first few years and was definitely hooked.
Cool. Do you want to tell me about your personas?
Go first.
You go first? Okay.
Hiding. Incognito.
Okay. I decided that I wanted my persona to be Anglo-Saxon after I took a literature course in maybe the second year of college, so it took me a little while to figure out a persona. But we read Beowulf, and I'd read parts of Beowulf before, so it wasn't completely unfamiliar, but the professor actually read some of it in the original Old English language. And I was just enthralled. And so I kind of based my persona, or I started researching, the time, place, the culture, whatnot that came from, and eventually settled on 7th century Anglo-Saxon because they have the best bling.
Myself, interestingly enough, my brother and I are descendants of a samurai line, although we've never seen the sword in person. Our cousin has when he visited in 1990, 1999 with my grandmother. And I think that really had a huge impact for my decision to become a Japanese samurai, even though I'm a lot of the times playing Anglo-Saxon. For one, I don't know, I get to match my wife. The clothing is comfortable and warm. It's a little easier to chase and harm children. I mean, chase children in generally than say like my Japanese stuff is. Not to say that I don't really enjoy my clothing, especially some of the clothing I got from my reign. Those are some pretty fancy and lovely gifts I had gotten from that. But knowing that, that definitely was an impact. And so my last name is sort of a weird phonetic misspelling of my actual grandmother's name because it's Toyaoka. But so instead of the AO, it's OO, but it has a weird, I don't know, symbol above it that changes the saying. So just to try to make it more phonetic and easier for other people to say it, I changed it to that. Plus, then I wasn't cheating or whatever they say by taking the family name per se. But I pretty much had it figured out immediately. Um, Ajax already had made like Roman armor out of just this random half a hide he had gotten from cards, this and that, this little random shop down in the basement. And we made that armor. And so he's like, well, I got this armor. I'll just go with Roman. I'm like, all right, well, if you're doing that, I'll do the Japanese thing. And went and looked on a list of names and found Katsuo, which meant victorious child. And I'm like, totally me, because I'm immature and I like to win. Sounds good. Let's go with that.
I like that we're getting some Ajax history here too. Apparently it's a twin thing.
He's the one that made me come and do it. Like it was his influence and he pushed me toward it. I mean, otherwise we did paintball like all the time. Like all the time. I went to like 3 or 4 different events a year or whatever, and then all of a sudden I'm like, let's do this. We can hit each other with sticks, but safely, because we've been doing that for years. I'm surprised we never broke anything, ever. Knock on wood. So
There you go. Yeah, well, you can't have one twin without the other. So in the early days, your early days in the SCA, what kind of things have you sparked your interest in the SCA?
we did it all. Like we went to see like the first siege, and so we authorized advanced equestrian that day. I already had pretty much the majority of the authorizations in heavy, minus spear, which I think I got at siege. And then I had, well, yeah, because so our first event would have been, let's see, I think 2005 summer, Rabid Yale, and I did 3 forms, I think that week. So sword and board, single stick, and then pole arms. They had a pole arm tournament, so we did those 3 that so we could compete in that. And then Julio's loner armor almost killed me because it was so hot, but I did it. And then I did fencing afterwards immediately. I think I did single sword, obviously, and then I did case and then dagger, I believe. So like when it came to Ajax and I, like there was no competition or anything per se, but like when it came to authorizations, that card was going to get filled out, and we had it filled out within like 6 months for all the authorizations, except for siege. But nobody was really doing that around here. And considering we kind of entered in a time where there was more of a revival of they were trying to get more marshals and stuff in the area, so it became a lot easier than per se like Hagen and those guys started.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they saw marshals for months generally. I think they'd go pretty far east, probably like Minneapolis before they saw quite a few of the marshals. You know, one of the few would have been like probably Rothgar was a marshal of some sort. I would imagine Julio. Right, yeah. So I mean, and then Braun, I think, was kind of the only ones really kind of. Well, I don't know if that's true if they would have been the first, but so it was tough to find them back when they started. So we were lucky It was pretty easy to get pretty quickly. Your turn.
Okay. Yeah, I tried everything, I guess. Anything that anybody was doing, I gave it a try. And I pretty much enjoyed all of it. I didn't really settle on any particular thing, in the SCA right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing that I actually did was an ungarbed event. Me and Hagen and Tom Graff, Surly Tom, we took the trebuchet down to Elk Point and we did a pumpkin chunkin' demo for the Boy Scouts that fall. I think that was the first thing I did in the SCA. And so, yeah, trebuchets kind of hold a soft spot in my heart since then. That was a lot of fun. Gosh, I don't remember when I started fencing. It was fairly early on, probably in my first year. Because Curly Tom was looking for people to fence with. So I fell into that, and we do fencing. And yeah, I remember I loved doing the archery when we'd go down to the archery barn almost weekly during the winter time. And just, shoot archery down there. That was always fun. And gosh, we helped out in the kitchens, and we did some blacksmithing stuff and sewing, and oh my gosh, everything. I tried armored combat once. I've only ever been in armor once, but I did try that. So that was fun, but I had already started fencing too, and I decided to focus on one, unlike Mr. Do-It-All here. So yeah.
Sometimes
but yeah,
it's okay not to do everything.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just everything I did, I loved it. So I was pretty well into it. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Must have bathed in it then.
So you've been part of the SCA for quite a while. Do you want to tell us a SCA magic moment story?
You got one out there?
One that I always remember, where kind of just, one of those magic moments where everything comes together, was during Gulf NATO. It was during our reign, and we had to hold court in the shoe tent.
Yeah, Murdoch's tent.
Yep. Because it was the largest sheltered place we could find that hadn't been taken over, and he graciously made room for us and for as many people as we could fit in there. And there were people standing outside being drenched in the rain and like relaying everything that was said back and forth in court so that the people way at the back could hear. And then, gosh, it was actually right after court was over, and we were just sitting and waiting out the storm. Those of us who were still in the tent anyway. I think people outside maybe dashed off, but Baldwin was standing behind us and just started singing while we're all waiting out the storm, and everybody else joined in, and just, all kinds of good Northshield songs and old folk songs and whatnot. And it was just a really, really awesome moment where most of us were dry and and all of Northshield, not all of, but everybody that had come there in one place far away from home. So it was a cool moment. I remember that very fondly.
I wasn't dry by that time.
You might have left by then.
Well, we went to help Master
Drix.
Drix, and I
Yeah.
forgot how slippery period shoes are, and I went straight into the water and stood back up and went help anyway. I was like, oh, all right, don't run, walk. I don't know, like it's odd. So it would be really hard to pick one magic moment because I get a few that kind of pop in my head over the years, which is interesting.
Well, you should just tell us all your stories.
I'd have to remember them all, but
back in my day,
yeah. I would say I think when I had one crown, that was pretty magical. It's like the first time ever I could remember that everything was perfect. Like I wasn't tired, even though we didn't go to bed till midnight. I'm pretty sure, Anne, when you guys got there, uh, nothing hurt. Armor felt like it was part of me. It was crazy. And when I had beaten Katie, and I was like, oh, I won. I thought we were gonna fight another round, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I won. So that's kind of really a magical moment, and to win an accolade or technically a job, and that you were going to share with, say, your spouse or your partner in crime, whoever you had picked to do that, it's a pretty big deal. So it was pretty amazing. I think it's probably one of the best things I certainly have done in my SCA career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I remember when he won, the other kids stayed home with grandma, but James was 2 or 3 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
Drove all the way out to Michigan. Yeah, I remember I held the baby through most of that crown tourney. And I think you asked me several times, Anne, or Elis,
Your Majesty,
if you wanted me to, or if I wanted you to hold the baby for me, and I don't even know if I heard you most of the time. And then after he won, I think you just like took him from me. I don't think you even asked at that point.
I want to say I probably held him in the finals.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, you probably did. You would have had to go sit with their majesties.
Yeah, because there's pictures of me holding James during the finals, and everybody's kind of around looking at the baby and watching the fighting and stuff. So
yeah, I was kind of glad to have something to hang on to. I think.
Well, I don't know. We had every perfect. I don't know, like perfect everything. Like we had Tion there, we had Carrie, Anne was there. Like every little piece was just where it needed to be, and it worked perfect.
Yeah.
I probably will never be that good ever again. Oh well, whatever.
Never say never. Do you want to talk a bit about your reign? What kind of things you went through, and what was special? Maybe was difficult.
Gosh, it almost feels like a blur. My memory's not so great these days.
I don't think anybody's is.
Yeah. We had a lot of really great people around us.
Oh, yeah.
Whether our Stellari Council or various other officers, the peers, our own staff that we handpicked, our champions, our chamberlains. We had some really, really, really great people on our side, and I think that really made it go as well as it did.
Yeah, we were fortunate. We had a very productive and I think talented Stellari Council at the time, honestly. So it made it really easy to do our job because most of the time we just would hear what they had to say and just rely on them to take care of it. You were there, so that was a bonus. we were pretty close, and like if we had an issue, we knew about it pretty quickly. Um, I would say, we followed a pretty great couple, Tom and Sigrid. They had
Mhm.
a few things that they wanted to wrap up that had happened, and they owned their issues before we had to step up, which was really excellent. A lot of times you're unable to do that, so that was pretty cool. And I'd have to say, it was really we were really fortunate to have those two in front of us. So
Yeah, actually, we got a lot of really great um, advice, tips, suggestions from them. But at the same time, they made sure we knew that we got to make this our reign our own when it was our turn. But I mean, they were a really great example to follow, I think.
Hmm.
So,
I would say so. Not really an HR guy or a management guy, and that's just certainly what this job is. So I guess it was a interesting scenario I put myself into, but I think one of the things we did and realized, hey, we don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're just going to love the hell out of this. And we kind of made that our mantra, our motto, and it seemed to really work. I mean, I hope. It's
Yeah,
like
I think
that was
so.
our goal anyway.
I liked getting to. It really gives you a great opportunity to meet a lot of people. Maybe people you've seen around for years, but you just didn't really get a chance to chat with them. So you definitely get to meet a lot of really cool people. Um, I think the other thing that we both said many times, that one of our favorite things about the job was the privilege of seeing people's faces and reactions when you get to congratulate them in court and hand them an award, or tell them what they're being recognized for. That was really cool.
Yeah, we did some. I'm not sure if we did. I'm sure we did something different. Every rain is a little different, but I would almost imagine at times it seemed like we weren't very available because there were certainly issues or other concerns that came up, and we spent a lot of time behind closed doors trying to counsel or guide the people who are having these issues. And I don't know. I think and I hope that showed a lot of people that we actually cared. I remember our the day we were elevated, we were in meetings for like most of the day, and that's pretty common and everything. But one of them was a particular issue that had happened at the event. We were there right away, and it was kind of a big deal. So I noticed that we did that quite a bit, and even with the
I don't remember
peers,
that.
I do. It's like, oh, let's go have fun. No, you have to do this. Oh, all right, that sucks. But I mean, even with some of the peers that we were going to bring up, uh, I think we had, or I did. I'm not. I'm sure how you approached it, but there was a few of them that there was concerns and stuff, and so I would have private conversations with them. Say, hey, this is a concern, and just make them aware of what was going on before, particularly, you know, we're going to make our move to elevate them. And I think that was good. And we did a pretty good job of transparency, I think, too, during our reign, or we really tried to.
Hmm.
And I think that helped. For the most part. I mean, we didn't have any big issues. We did have to prolong or continue that one banishment, and I think we either had to do a second one or it was just right after our reign.
I'm trying to remember.
But it was with the new laws guidelines for the
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
right.
Not
But
easy to let's forget.
so there was a few of those things we had to do right away too, and not necessarily fun, but a necessary thing to do, especially for the particular case that it was anyway. So
Hmm.
Trying to think. Oh, we did have a bit of fun that day too. Like we we played off high Japanese court. Like, yeah, nobody can touch us or talk to us, blah blah, for like what 5 minutes, and then we're like, oh, screw that stuff. Come on, let's all party. Get in here. That was kind of fun, at least for me. Trying to think. There's a lot that had happened. I mean, like you said, that
was probably the first time I wore Japanese garb.
yes.
No, I did wear Japanese garb at the Crown tournament.
Oh,
you
that's
won.
right. You did. That's right.
That was the most garb I've ever worn at one time. Raito and Asa gave us their coronation garb.
Mm-hmm.
They loaned that to us for our reign, and so that's what we wore for our coronation when we stepped up. That's a lot of fabric.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yes.
Did you ever wear like some of the pieces, less of the pieces? I don't know, maybe that's not appropriate to wear less of it another time, or you just wore that once?
I think we just wore that the one time.
I wore it twice.
Did you?
Okay.
I wore it at Hertz Creek too.
Okay.
Coronation
Okay.
guard.
Oh, I think at Hertz Creek, didn't you wear Japanese and I wore my Anglo-Saxon stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had fun going back and forth between Japanese and Anglo-Saxon. So
Is there anything else about the reign that you can think of might be a good thing to talk about?
Well, like you said, golf was pretty phenomenal considering it was wet and cold a lot of the time. We had a really good generals for both the heavy and the light. Like we had the German, and he was an excellent, not undefeated, everybody, just saying, undefeated fencing general. And then, of course, then we had Sir Harryolf with us, and that was pretty a lot of fun. And it was nice to see him out there. He was having a good time with that as well. And apparently very good with directions and maps, because we had the one briefing, and I was looking at the map, and I was all kinds of turned around, which is bizarre because usually I'm pretty well squared away compass-wise, but I wasn't getting it. He was, and I'm like, thank God you're in charge, man. 'Cause I don't know what the hell's going on right now. I'm just going to sit here and look pretty. That was pretty good. But, like you said, that court was pretty amazing, when we did our 2 Norbanders and we had Thor screaming out in celebration. That was pretty fabulous, too. And,
Who got Norbanders? I don't remember.
so Helgi, Moosebane,
yeah.
All right.
had gotten it. And then I forget the first name, but Raven's friend, the gentleman that was in the wheelchair, quite the hero in my eyes.
Right.
Gave it him, too. So, and then I think I believe he passed probably a year.
I think so.
After that, unfortunately. Yeah. But speaking of him, so I kind of, as a foolish young squire, remember seeing him at golf and not realizing that he was actually from, I want to say around the Toma area or.
Yeah, I think so. Falcons Keep or somewhere.
Yeah, I just thought he was a random guy from somewhere other known world that would just show up and fight with us and not realize it until much later. So I'm having a conversation with him like, oh, you must just really like Northshield. Not realizing it till much later. I'm like, oh, he's one of ours. That is awesome. So that was really cool. And then, working with Their Majesties Mid-Rome, actually, they were fabulous. Peter and his lovely wife, they looked perfectly as Bruce royalty. It was awesome. For the thing, for elevating Her Excellency Sean.
How did that work? She used to be.
I forget her barony, but she was there for a while.
I don't remember how that worked. Did they they asked us if they could give her a.
Yes. Well, no, they didn't. But we kind of had the skinny that they wanted to, but they were busy and they didn't. So I impulsively said, yes, you can do this. And then they thought we were mad at them. Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm very bad at this. I'm just making sure that you have the okay. So we had a little conversation with them, and then we kind of got to meet them later, and they were pretty cool. So, but yeah, but then when they had us put the circlet on them, I was like, or the cornet, I'm like, oh, that was a surprise, So that was a pretty neat moment too, and kind of a long thing coming for Sean, because just the way the things ended over there and whatnot, I don't know, was muddied water or whatnot. So, so that was good. I mean, there was so much going on that week.
Yeah, it was a very busy week.
Yeah.
But a fun week.
Yes.
Golf course is always a good time.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what did you say?
I miss it.
Golf course? Yeah, me too.
Well, everybody did this year. So.
Well, last year they canceled it too.
And last year too, yeah. I know Aethelflaed's been to Lily's. Have you been? You've been to Pensick, and that was the only other war you've been to, right?
Technically, I went to Battlemore.
Okay.
Yeah,
well.
I have never been to Pensick, and I don't think he's been to Lily's.
Nope.
I haven't been to Lily's for a long time either, but I remember Lily's very fondly.
We forgot about our excursion into Callantyre. That was interesting.
Go into that another time.
It was
Oh,
fun.
during your reign?
Yeah, it was like a Snickers moment, and I had to pee bad. I was like, yeah, no, I'll talk. No, I'm not ready to talk.
Yeah, you learn those little moments when you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
It was humbling and funny.
Yeah.
People come talk to us later. I'm like, yeah, that's not at all what I meant. Sorry about that.
But it's okay to laugh about it after it's over. They make for good stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I got saved by Aethelflaed. And technically so did Agamemnon, because he was sitting there calculating, like, who do I got to stab first to get us out of here? That's what he said going through his head. I'm like, now that's a good champion right there, everyone. He's got to calculate who's going to stab first. You want that guy on your side.
It might have been you who was going to stab.
No, it wasn't. I won't say the name, but
I mean, that's what I was thinking, but.
Aethelflaed, do you want to tell us any Lily stories that you remember?
Well, my very first Lily's was the year it rained.
Oh yeah, that good year.
That was every year, but that particular year was pretty special in terms of rain.
I think that was the year I threw my shoes away at the end of the week.
Yeah, the night that we got there, and this was my first summer in the SCA. I had just started the fall before, and then, come spring, people in Svati were asking, oh yeah, you should come to Lily's with us this year. You want to go to Lily's? We all go as a group and whatnot. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds fun. So, threw my stuff in with everybody and went along. And the night that we got there,
oh yeah,
Surly Tom and Rachel, Honora, and I had gone to take the giant van and I don't know, a couple vehicles back up to the parking lot. We had dropped off all the stuff and everybody was setting up tents. Well, by the time we got back to the parking lot, like just sheets of rain were coming down. So we sat in the van and waited until it died down. And afterwards, we heard everyone else's side of the story about, what was it, like holding up tent poles and hiding under picnic tables and I don't know what all. I'm glad I missed that. And
yeah, you missed hanging onto the kitchen tent.
Yeah.
And and one side of you being completely dry and the rain side being completely wet. I hadn't even changed into garb yet, and I was just like,
yeah,
half,
Yep.
And Aaron screaming, welcome to Lily's, and I'm just like, okay.
Gosh, yeah, I miss Aaron. And then, we slept sitting upright in the back seat of someone else's van that night, because everything in the tents was, well, the air mattresses were floating,
Mhm.
I remember.
I believe there was a lot of water in your tent.
Yep. And so, I mean, lots of people did not like that Lily's because it was kind of miserable for mud and wet and everything. But I guess being a 19-year-old college student, I didn't care and I had a blast. And we literally walked around. I gave up on shoes, I think, after the first day. I didn't wear shoes all week. I went barefoot, calf deep in the mud at Lily's all week. And we just had a ton of fun. Went to all the classes, watched fighting. Gosh, I don't even remember all of it, but yeah, it was a good time. So met lots of cool people, and it was a great introduction to SCA camping and large events and wars and whatnot. So it's a good time.
Mhm.
I would like to go back to Lily's.
Yeah, I definitely think we should have a Lily's reunion sometime.
Yeah. Yep. It'd be a good time.
Where nobody's responsible for nothing except hanging out in camp and maybe cooking dinner.
Yeah. Yep.
Someday when I'm not responsible anymore.
Will happen.
Someday. Let's see.
I have something like 16 years before I can be not responsible, but
Well, the nice thing about Lily's is there's lots of stuff for kids to do. So,
yeah, that's true.
and there's, it's fairly safe for them to run amok, and
Or run in muck, sounds like.
Well, run in muck too, yeah.
Plenty of muck to run in.
Yeah, plenty of puddles to jump in. Or they can jump in the lake too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Go jump in a lake, kids!
As long as there's no algae.
Oh, right. No E. coli in the lake that year. Yeah, that's not good.
Depends on the year.
Yeah, it's a nice thing about living on the border between Northshield and Callantyre. You can go to Callantyre quite often.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see. So what would you say is your favorite Northshield quirk?
Quirk. We lick it, it's ours?
It doesn't really work in COVID times, though.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, I mean, we're all at home anyway, so if you lick it, it probably is yours because I'm guessing you're at home.
I hope so.
Pretty sure I get licked like 5 times a day.
To be perfectly honest, most of my SCA stuff has been done in Kingdom, so I have a hard time anymore distinguishing what's actually a Northshield quirk or what's just an SCA quirk. I would venture, I get the feeling that Northshield is pretty chill. I feel we're pretty chill. I don't know how that compares to other kingdoms necessarily, but we do feel kind of maybe informal is what I'm trying to go for.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a word for
it. Relaxed and groovy.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
To quote Eddie Izzard. Why not? So yeah, I like that. Northshield does seem to be pretty laid back. But boy, we sure do know how to fancy it up when we get a wild hair.
That's true.
So
very true.
Yeah, and pulling off some of the craziest ideas and stunts. Someone will just, say something out of the blue that they think they mean as a joke, and someone else says, "Oh yeah, let's do that." So.
You mean like blowing up a cow?
Yeah, or deciding to build a tank. Eldred.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do get some crazy ideas in Northshield sometimes.
Yeah.
I often think what other kingdoms think of us, but
they think we're awesome.
I hope so.
They want to be us. Everybody wants to be us, right?
Um, do you have anything on your SCA wish list that you haven't done yet?
Well, I haven't been to Penzik. I still really want to go to Penzik. On a smaller scale, I guess I still never learned tablet weaving. That's been on my list for a very long time now.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to learn to tablet weave. Someday when I have a bigger house, I want to learn to set up and use a warp weighted loom. I like string, and that's a very big string project. So that sounds appealing to me.
Yep.
So yeah, a couple things I'd like to do in the future.
I'm not really sure. I mean, not this summer, but last. I finally got to do, real night shit and joust and be awesome on a horse. So, I mean, I guess for prosperity, I should, go for Duke or Fluke, but meh, whatever. Just so those other guys don't bug me too much about it. But I don't know. Yeah, that maybe joust with wood. That would be pretty fabulous.
Can you do that?
I think he's working on it. It's only like there's only a few marshals, so it'll take time, but it'll happen.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to have a lot more metal, but it'll happen. Although I might have to find a new pony by that time, which will be sad. But it'll happen, or it won't. Whatever.
True, very true. It will happen or it won't. Let's see. I had a question that I didn't have on my list.
He forgot to put lilies on his SCA bucket list.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll make a note of that.
I don't know if he's actually put lilies on his SCA eventually to-do list, but I've put go to lilies on his SCA to-do list, so.
Well, it's only 6 hours away. He doesn't have to go for the whole thing.
That far. 6 hours, not that far.
No. In Northshield terms, that's a nice, easy
maybe
drive.
That's going back. Maybe that's the Northshield quirk. We think 6 hours isn't really that far.
Day trip.
Not.
Day trip. Maybe that. I don't know. I tried to go a couple times. It didn't work out.
What, to go to Lily's?
Yeah, even like for a Saturday or whatever. So, I don't know why.
Things happen.
Life is life.
Yes, it is. So, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out in SCA?
Try everything. I think about when I started, and I had so much fun and I tried everything. If somebody was doing a workshop anywhere near me, I would go and just had a lot of fun. And like, I don't feel like I've really mastered any particular skills in the SCA. But I have learned at least a little bit about a lot of different things. And that's really cool. Just kind of broadening your horizons and, the scope of what you even know is possible, because, I did fencing and armored combat, and I've tried calligraphy and illumination and blacksmithing, and a lot of different things. And that's what I would tell anybody who's getting started. Don't be too worried about narrowing your focus to anything in particular right away. Just try everything, try on all different kinds of garb. And don't worry too much about politics and administration and that kind of thing. We love volunteers. We love when people are helping out. And like, I feel like I helped set up for a lot of events and, get things going and whatnot. I think that's important too, but I didn't really hold a lot of officer positions or whatnot. I didn't have a clue what was going on in the wider kingdom. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good thing, but it was, in a way, it's nice to just not have to worry about some of the things that we stress about, those of us who've been in longer and really do, feel we need to take on more administrative roles to, because somebody's got to keep things going. But yeah, when you're just getting started, just, have fun, try new things, do what you like, get to know people, that kind of thing.
I would say, don't be afraid to go out your comfort zone, because you won't do those things if you don't. There are very many people types that gravitate toward SCA, and as long as you've got all the energy in the world, or if you're very limited, use it for what you love, whatever path or desire that you want to do. Take your time, cultivate it, love it. They always talk about a path either for peerage or something else to that effect. It doesn't necessarily have to end there. It could be anything. You love art, period. You love cooking, period. You like to fight, period. Enjoy it for what it is. The more simple that you make it, obviously, the less stressful it is. You will enjoy that activity longer. It'll be less of a job, unless you go crazy and you want to be uber awesome like right away, which is impossible because you have to fail more times than you can succeed. I mean, any master will tell you that. I've failed more times than you've even succeeded or tried. So just enjoy the path and grow slowly. If I was gonna temper or make a blade, you would take your time shaping it and making sure that all the crystalline structure is nice and flexible and the appropriate tensile, or it'll snap. And people are much like that. So take your time, enjoy it.
Yep, definitely. So what would you say is your most defining moment in the SCA?
Like all of them. I don't know if I could pick one. It really is kind of a lot of moments.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, simplicity's sake, as I said earlier, taking that first step in whatever path would be the defining moment. Because if you don't do it, then you don't do anything. So like when Ajax and I decided to fight, that would be it. I mean, look where it's gotten myself. I was fighting, winning pretty early for a new guy. Then I was getting my butt kicked, and I hated that. Then I wanted to get better, so then I was winning again, and later on doing all the other stuff. Later becoming a squire to Hagen. Not really know what I was getting involved there, but it was good. It was a good ride, and watching him be king and you at Quang at the time too was really good. I think it helped me grow definitely. And then even when he had left, that's kind of tough for a squire, especially when you're sort of maybe getting there, but not sure you're getting there. And, I had an interesting path that way, I guess, and end up, the populace in Northshield as a whole kind of helped create me as a knight. So taking that first step definitely would be the defining factor for me.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, because if you don't try, you don't get anything. Do you have someone in the SCA that you admire, and why?
I was thinking about this recently, and I think I realized that probably the person who made me feel the most welcome my early days in the SCA, and very possibly why I, stuck around, would have to be Hagen. Because, when I started college and started the SCA, I was very quiet. Everything pretty much was new to me, and I was, really interested in SCA and excited about it, but he really made sure that people felt welcome and were getting to do the things they wanted to do, and and we're having fun and weren't uncomfortable. I think one of the great things about Hagen, I think, is that he can recognize when you're feeling weird and awkward. And as soon as he notices that, he is willing to take it and go one step further and be way more weird and awkward than you. So you can feel completely comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's really great at making people feel welcome and make sure they're getting to do the things they want to do. And okay, so there's a lot of people I really kind of admire and look up to in the STA. The other person that kind of sticks out for me is always Fenia.
I knew it.
She just exudes grace and joy. I think you can tell that, if she's doing something, she's probably doing it because she enjoys it.
Yeah.
And I really admire that in her. And
I couldn't really pick one, and I never would. I would say, if anything, the monoliths of the West to me would certainly be Hagen, Fenia, Tarek, Roeder. All those guys were huge, and still technically really are for a lot of us out here. But when I was young, I mean, they were the ones around. They were the ones certainly checking on you and seeing how you were going to grow and stuff. And it's just awesome. Really, I think, they have molded me mostly to who I am today. And I'm very grateful. They're freaking cool people. They really are. Later on, it would probably be, Sir Tom and B&P. And then you got Ziggy out there out east. Rido for sure. Rido was around a lot, which was really cool. Rido and Asa both. I got my AOA from those guys, and that was super neat. They made me a little fan. It was personalized to my persona and everything, and awesome. Oh, and Cadian too. He'd come out here and beat me up too.
we don't admire anyone in the SCA. We couldn't come up with a really long list of people.
Oh yeah, we could.
We'd have to really scratch our brains. No, there's a lot of people I think that we both admire, and it would take a long time to get through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot Roisin.
Roisin is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's probably the people we admire that make us stick around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes things more fun. So.
Yep, definitely. So my last question.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Lately, since having kids, can I just say that Teon and Circa and their kids are like my
We admire them.
inspiration. I don't know a lot of other people who haul that many kids to SCA events on the regular. So
Yep. And how good theirs has turned out, and hopefully yours will do this just the same.
yes. So I'm hoping my kids are at least mostly as good as theirs.
Well, you do have help wrangling them all.
Yes. So okay. Sorry. What was
No. So the last question I have is, what's the best thing about Northshield?
is it cheesy and cliche to say the people?
No, a lot of people say that.
Usually the obvious answer, but it really is. So
I want to be a jerk and be like, we're not the East, the West, or any other kingdom. I think the bot agrees.
That we're not those kingdoms.
Uh-huh.
because we're Northshield.
Uh-huh.
That's a very easy thing to agree to.
Yeah, I don't know. I do. I like people in Northshield.
Yep, they're pretty awesome. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you? Did we cover most things?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean,
You're the boss.
how long do you want to be here?
I don't know. I'm interviewing you.
So there's always more stories and
Yeah.
to talk about, but I've had a good. I realized the other day, what is it? Almost 18 years that I've been in the FCA.
Has it been that long?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's older than our kids by a lot.
Well, yeah.
I mean, my armor and swords are older than them, so.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not too difficult. They're all still pretty young.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. It's probably a good bit.
I can't think of anything else. Or I'm thinking of too many things and nothing's popping out.
What about you? Was there anything you anything you remember or particularly wanted to ask us about, or?
Not that I can think of. I think you've talked about most of the stuff.
I've known you, I mean, all those 18 years, so.
That's true. I do remember. Not precisely the first meeting that you came to, but I do remember when you were new, and we had the old student center, and we'd have meetings in the. I don't even remember what room we were in, but
they're all different now.
Doesn't matter. It's been torn down now.
It's all torn down now, and they have new rooms and stuff. So
yeah, I went to one of those meetings.
Over in the student center.
Yeah. Yeah, I was down working at the siege site, and then I went with you. You took me to the thing.
Oh yeah.
Like forever ago.
Yep.
Spotty meetings are always kind of fun because most of the times it was just kind of a gap session where we all, we may talk about business for 20 minutes and the rest of the time just kind of talk about whatever and everything and anything.
I didn't realize for a long time that many groups, I mean, I think we were kind of rare in that we met every week and most of us came at least probably a couple times a month. That was just where we all hung out. And it was probably years before I realized that a lot of groups might only meet once a month, and it might just be a business meeting, and so really only the officers show up. But I mean, we were such a small group.
Still are.
Even smaller now, but we've always been a small group, and Svati's always felt very close knit, and I think I feel very actually lucky to have started here, because that was just the kind of community or group that I particularly really kind of enjoyed being a part of, that worked for me. So
Yeah, and I think meeting like once, and sometimes we'd meet twice a week, because did you start when we used to still meet at Tom's house?
no.
No, okay. So we'd kind of stopped doing that. But
Probably would have been down at the milk barn at that point.
Thursdays 7 p.m. in the student center. Gosh, was it room 112? I could probably almost tell you, or is that our more recent meeting room?
No, it'd be 212 or something like that, because the room numbers were all different in the old student center.
I remember it was through the door up the stairs, and it was kind of like right there. The one time I went to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole goal was, to have meetings every week to kind of keep it in people's minds and keep people interested, which I think worked to some extent.
That might be partly because we were a student group too.
Yes, and that's exactly why, because students are busy, and so we'd have hangout once a week, because then it'd be easy to remember.
Yep.
And someday we'll probably meet on Thursdays again. Thursdays
at 7 p.m. in the student center.
Yeah.
Someday.
But in the old days, we used to meet on Thursdays in the student center, and then we'd probably hang out most of the day on Saturday at Tom's house and work on stuff. And then we'd usually meet like after lunch or something. People come over like 1:00, and when we hang out, and we'd have supper together and hang out some more, watch movies, and everybody'd go home super late.
Yep. Yeah, and then it wasn't terribly long after I started that Tom moved all the SCA stuff.
And then we went down
to the milk barn, and then we would meet and hang out in there and work on projects.
That's right.
So, go to WIMPs. Yep.
Go WIMPs.
I actually, that was another thing I was remembering the other day was, do you remember when we had feast at WIMPs after, I think it was maybe one of the very last King's rides we ever held?
Or Crash and Bash?
I think it was Crash and Bash.
That's what I was thinking when you were talking about it.
Because we had the event up on the bluff in the pasture. And
nobody wanted to come.
Or were we at the milk barn? I feel like we were up on the bluff.
We were either on the bluff, or we might have been at Union Grove Park. I don't remember which, but I think everybody was. I think it was cold and icky, and we all we don't want to cook. Let's go to WIMPs.
Yep. So we went to WIMPs. So, and I remember Andrew and I, Abel the Inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Had started singing something at our table, some folk song, and we started singing it really quietly, but then somebody else heard us, and so they made us sing it so everybody could hear, and then all of the WIMPs regulars got really quiet and started listening too. And half of us were still in garb, and the other half had changed out of garb, and that was a good time. Feast at WIMPs.
I think we did that quite a bit after that.
Yeah.
Off and on. Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you have 2 reigns now. Who would you say that was most influential during your first and then this reign? This sort of helped you make it through.
Oh, that's a good question. My first reign was 100 million years ago. I want to say for me it was probably Astrid, because I hadn't really dealt with any scrolls or court lists or anything like that, and she was just very easy to work with. And of course, everything in those days we just did it on email. There wasn't Facebook was a college thing still, So she just made everything super easy and fun, and she was a joy to work with. And any question I had wasn't, I was like, oh well, why shouldn't you should know that. But Astrid, Fina, and Myred, God, who else was there? I think Aya. I went to Fargo one weekend and they made me clothes patterns.
Oh.
And we we worked on garb stuff that weekend. And that was really, nice to kind of, I'd known Fina somewhat to that point, but, I'm not sure if we were really, really close, but, we knew each other and always were. But it was, I stayed at her house that weekend and, we ate and, it was nice to get to know people a little bit better and learn a few things too. So, in the arts of royalty, kind of 101 lessons. I'm trying to think of anybody else really. It's interesting to think back, my first reign, it seems like we didn't do a lot of stuff with Stellari, and Catriona was the kingdom seneschal at that point. I do remember telling her that I don't think I could ever do her job, which apparently
You'd forgotten about.
No, I never forgot about it, but I don't know. Apparently I decided at one point I could probably do that. Maybe that wasn't so wise, but I did it and I've survived. So hooray me.
I thought you did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
You made it.
It's good to have good royalty. But, she took care of a lot of things and, I never really had to, I don't know. I wasn't, and maybe in my naivete, I wasn't overly concerned about Stellari matters at that point when I was queen the first time. So, but it was nice to have somebody that you could rely on and you didn't have to worry or, it was like, they got it covered. So they know what they're doing. It's all good. Like you said earlier, you had good Stellari people and we did have really good Stellari people at that time. So, and Hagen was invaluable because, he pretty much showed me what to do. It's like, just, one of my, I'm pretty good at observing and listening. So if you keep your mouth shut and watch and, kind of follow people's leads, you can pretty much make it through anything. And he was, but he was the more experienced one in that reign. So, I think there was a few times he maybe stepped on my foot to say, stop talking.
I tried doing that to him once, and he literally just looked down at me and he's like, why are you stepping on my foot? Are you drunk? Move over. I'm like, oh my gosh. No, you're supposed to stop talking now.
The Taurus, you just keep going forward.
Yeah, keep going.
Hagen has told me this, but he would have to affirm it for sure. But he would say it actually in a weird way. I'd be influential because I made him mad. And then he decided, fuck what you just said. I'm going to go beat everybody up.
Yeah, it's your fault why I'm here.
Yeah, I did help convince you.
You did, yes.
How's that?
Well, so we and her were just sitting in Hagen's old house in the
I think we were at dinner.
Garage. No, in the garage.
Was in the garage?
Yeah, and she's out of the blue, was like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I think you guys would be awesome. I think you should go for it. I think you'll surprise everybody. You'll be like the dark horse of Northshield. It'll be awesome. And then she's like, all right, screw it. Let's do it. I think later on she came to, like, oh.
Yeah, that was kind of
nobody here.
What's that?
Talking to Mr. Nobody here.
Well, you weren't nobody. Everybody has an opinion. You were sitting there, so I might as well ask you. And I had a pretty good feeling that Hagen would win. He was pretty confident in his, assessment of his abilities, and I'm like, well, he should know. He'd know better than anybody. And I'm like, okay, well. And I knew should he win, I was going to be helping anyway. I was going to be, there doing whatever he needed to done. So, might as well get the good job.
Right.
Yeah.
So I asked her that question. Now it's your turn.
What was the question again?
Like,
Go
who
back
was
to
a
the
big
actual
influence for you during your reign that kind of just helped you along?
Oh, I guess the obvious answer would be our chamberlains.
Yeah.
Rodwin and Eldred pretty much rocked that job.
Yep.
So I don't even know probably 3/4 of what they did. And, to this day, if somebody asked me for advice on how to deal with X number of things in a reign, I would probably say ask Rodwin and Eldred because they did it for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to say that we have a rock solid staff. Rock solid. Kit and Adal and Ajax and Gaia and, Rodwin isn't necessarily on staff most of the time, but she does what she can. And usually when I need somebody to vent at, I call her.
She's your sounding board.
She is my sounding board. She is, since I don't have a spouse, so she's my spousey sounding board.
It's okay, I have a spouse and she's my sounding board too.
Well, sometimes you need more than one sounding board. But she always gives great advice and she has excellent insight. Just, I don't know where she gets it from, but man, it's just like, wow, you see everybody super clear. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And we love you, Rodwin.
Watch now, she won't even watch it.
Probably not.
She's busy. What was that it then for you?
I suppose. I mean, again, there could be a really long list.
Oh, there's a ton of people in Northshield admire, and we have excellent officers and people that work their butt off.
Yeah, they're very
so hard, so committed, and sometimes I know you feel like, oh, what am I doing all this for? And you, I don't know. So, but in the end, you're keeping the wheels going and keeping the lights on, and the relationships we have with each other are the most important things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta answer my own question. That's only fair. So, okay. Mine's gonna echo yours somewhat, actually. Like, so we had won, and on our way home from Escanaba, Kat was like, "Okay, well, we'll sit down and I'll tell you kind of how this works out." And so we had an idea how our ward stuff was going to work out pretty quickly and whatnot. And she was a fabulous person to work with. And Cristoforo actually made my reign, really. He was such an huge wall of knowledge for the Japanese side of things. Because unfortunately, I was super good with my persona stuff, but then when I started really kind of focused on fighting things, a lot of that had dropped in the wayside. It was kind of hard to remember all those things that should have been second nature. So it was really nice to have him reacquaint me with kind of the culture again. And man, it was so awesome.
Mm-hmm. He created some fabulous scrolls for you guys.
Oh my God, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was glad that we were there to help push him to the next step. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it was just so awesome, just to see that growth too, from where it was from the beginning of our reign till the end. It was like, dude, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
And I blame Teo, just cause.
What about Teo?
I just blame him, just cause.
Oh, okay.
And for what?
Because I love him.
Everything.
Yeah, not everything.
That's what we usually blame Hagen for everything, right? It's all Hagen's fault.
It is. Gingers, it's their fault.
Well, it is. I mean, I said that earlier.
True. I don't think any of us would be here without him. So.
Gosh darn it.
And then he helped him move to the mid-round.
Right. He got a lovely lady and a crazy little Darth Molly out of it, so that's good.
Yeah, he has a lovely family.
Do you remember? Oh, what was one of your favorite like crown moments, like court moments?
Court. Okay, you said crown moments and then court moments. So just any court?
Yeah. It's like I have like a billion, but
yeah, I know that'd be kind of hard to.
Like I'll share at least two.
At the moment, first coming to mind is when we elevated Marguerite to the mod.
Oh, that was such a rough day for
and
you.
I had been puking from like 10 p.m. the night before until 5 a.m. and then I stayed in the hotel room all day. I think some variation of food poisoning, but I don't know what.
That was like every hour.
Stayed in our hotel room until,
Didn't Eldred or Rodman come
right
get you?
up until court.
Yeah.
And then they came and got me. And, I think if I remember, I think I looked very pale in all of those pictures. And, I had talked ahead of time with Marguerite about doing the buffet. He was like, well, I don't think I can live up to Sigrid's standards. I'll do my best. And like, that was a big deal for me because I've never actually like punched anyone before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't want to.
That was for her too. Like she was super excited for it.
So I didn't want to like, I don't know. It's a thing. I don't want to hurt anybody, but it's also kind of an important moment. So I want to make it impactful, right? And here I was, just feeling all weak and wobbly and whatnot, but I made it through court. It was okay.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my head, but apparently.
I mean, it ended up being historic. That was our first female or non-male mod, so it was a big deal. And she was pretty gracious about it because, yeah, I think she wanted to get knocked around pretty hard too. But the fact that you made it there to do it was a big deal for her. So my two is one actually when I was Prince. We were out at Battlemore, and we had been doing grand courts like every day. We'd have a court in the meeting and a court in the afternoon. I want to say they were like 2 to 3 hours long or something. It seemed like, I don't know, it might not have been that long, but they were pretty long. And there's times that I have bad, like really small bladder, and these were most times like that. Like one time I like couldn't even stand up straight because I had to pee so bad. But we're walking in. I think it was one of our last ones, and I'm like, all right, this should be the biggest, baddest one. Let's just have fun. So I was like, oh, I don't have any regalia or anything. So I had, it would have been Don Martin. And so I was like, crap, dude, I don't have a sword, nothing. Oh, you should pull your dagger and pull it out. So he's pulling it out. He's got it in front of his face, And all of a sudden I see Tam just kind of crack up when he sees us enter the thing, And so I don't mean to be a clown, but I mean, I was going to have fun. But then they like started giving us gifts. And then all of a sudden, like we had these little bottles of like some sort of cherry or rhubarb alcohol or something. And, you're sitting there and you don't really have a lot to do. Northshield, period, didn't have much to do. So I just started taking snips of it. It was good. And then I started giving it to those guys. And I don't know if we got drunk, but we sure was having a good time. That was one I remember. Would have been me, Harry Ulf, and Jamie, and then
there.
Martin. No, you weren't there. But yeah, me, Martin, Harry Ulf, and Jamie. We were having a good time. Or Adele, and Adele. Sorry, Jamie, Adele. But then there's Adelaide. Anyway, I haven't seen her forever. Oh shoot, I forgot the other one. Memory's bad. I don't know. A lot of the elevations were pretty cool in a lot of ways. But I would have to say some of the cooler ones were AOAs. Like, you for sure get some of the most unique and genuine reactions when you give the AOAs, and we were able to get quite a few out. I mean, we tried to give out some of the ones that were like backlogged from like there was one guy, two people who had them. They'd like active for 18 years or something like that, and didn't have their AOAs.
Wow.
Yeah, so we made it a goal to be like, certainly some things we need to fix. They might have been a little inconspicuous in their service. So yeah, we certainly did things like that. But the theatrics of court can be pretty amazing at times. And sometimes it's a train wreck and you're just stuck on for the ride. So
until fate brings us shoulder to shoulder to stand as brothers again.